Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is our Arsenal preview show, our show in which we look ahead to the next Arsenal fixture. For this one, it is, of course, a Champions League game, and a big one because it is an opportunity for Arsenal to secure top spot in the group. All they need to do is either win against Lens in tomorrow's game, or if they do indeed draw, hope that both PSV and Sevilla draw, or that PSV lose in their game as well. So there's a number of pathways for Arsenal to secure that top spot with a game to spare. I think it's important to do so because obviously it gives Arsenal a little bit of, I suppose, of a match off, if you like, an opportunity to rotate the squad, use some fringe players as well. But I'm not sure that Arteta will want to be too lax with that game, even though it's technically a meaningless friendly from an Arsenal perspective. But hopefully Arsenal can secure that opportunity to do that in tomorrow's game. But Lens will pose a threat, of course, because they are the only team in Europe to beat Arsenal so far this season. When I was in France earlier this year for a rather tumultuous trip, but one that ended ultimately in Arsenal dropping points and Saka getting injured in that game as well, which cost them a place in the game against Manchester City. Thankfully, Arsenal still come away with the win in that fixture. As always with our preview shows, I'm very happy to be joined by three fantastic members from our Discord server. Let's introduce you to them now. First of all, joining us at a very silly o'clock in the morning over in Oz, it's Mike. How you doing, Mike? You good? You well?
Oh, very well, thanks, Tom. Yeah, all good.
Good
Thank you
stuff.
for,
I suppose
letting me
you
on.
you rather enjoyed Ramsdale's hiccups against Brentford.
Oh God, yeah, that was fun. Just keeping
One
them,
of his
just
biggest
keeping us on
fans.
our toes, eh?
Indeed, indeed. We'll talk about Ramsdale in a little bit. Also joined by Alex. How you doing, Alex? You good? You well?
Yeah, sorry, I was surprised. Yeah, I'm not too
I did spring that on you then, yeah.
Yeah, no, not too bad at all. Upset to be walking home in the dark now, but here we are.
Am I the only one who's like a winter guy? I like winter. I mean, clearly Mike doesn't because he's moved to Australia to never experience winter again. But I prefer it. Obviously, there's football. Yes, it's cold, and trust me, I've learned to appreciate some of the challenges it faces when I'm typing inside a very cold Emirates Stadium. Or the other night in Brentford was particularly freezing. I've now got kind of like fingerless gloves, which they're not even like proper fingerless gloves. They're like compression gloves, which are meant to use for like if you've got arthritis, but because they allow you to type, because obviously a fingerless glove would be quite difficult to type with. So it's that's a challenge of winter. But my birthday's in winter, Christmas is in winter. I just prefer it. So Alex, I'm assuming you're a summer guy.
No, I don't like. I leave in the morning and it's dark because South Coast here, it's very, I don't know, it just seems darker than the rest of the country.
That's actually geographically impossible to be true, right? I'm pretty
yeah,
sure.
I know.
I'm pretty sure that's the way it goes. I thought
it's just gloomier down here,
yeah.
and then
is that right, Mike? You might prove me wrong. Is it the south that gets the longest or the shortest day, or is it the north that gets the shortest day?
I thought it got shorter the further north you went.
Okay, well there you go.
Alex,
someone in the chat box will know, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if only we had like an ex-geography teacher to give us the answer, that would be great. But let's complete our quartet this evening with Leo. Leo, how you doing? You good? You well?
Hi, good. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, hi. How are you?
Oh, good. Good pleasure. Is it your first appearance? Have you been on a phone-in show before? Or
It is my first. Yeah.
Indeed. Well, welcome. And I'm sure the chat box will be very, very kind and friendly to you and won't judge you in any way at all from anything that you say on the show whatsoever. Joining us all the way from Hungary, Leo. So thank you for taking the plunge. It's always great. We always appreciate debutants coming on. We do it in the spirit of Vinny. Somebody, of course, that long time listeners will know as somebody that helped us get plenty of debutants on the show throughout the course of the channel's existence. So it's great to get new faces onto the channel. Tell us your Arsenal story, if you will, in a short form version. How is it you come about supporting the club?
I was born in the year of Invincibles. So from now on, I had no choice, basically.
Making Mike feel exceptionally old there today.
Yes. I was old when the Invincibles were kicking around.
That's the year before.
Indeed. Lovely stuff. Let's talk about tomorrow's game in the Champions League. Mike, how important is it to wrap up top spot early?
It'd be great, wouldn't it? As you said in your intro, it's essentially a day off if we need one, and there's a lot of fixtures between now and Christmas, and not having an extra one thrown in that really matters is probably not a bad thing.
Do you want to know the fixtures that surround that PSV game? We've got Aston Villa away, then it's the PSV trip, and then Brighton at home. So having a game off, and also Brighton will be playing European football as well on that Thursday before. So that would be and I don't think that they're in a position where they can top I don't think they've had an amazing group stage so far. But that could be really key in those runner fixtures. I mean, I see, and we'll talk about our lineups in a bit, but I think a lot of people have made a fair few rotational changes, and you'll see from mine, I've gone relatively strong. Is there, Alex, I'll throw this to you. Do you think there's a potential, and it's interesting I'm throwing to you because I think you've made the most changes out of any one of our lineups, which we'll come to, but is there a potential naivety of going too weak and underestimating the challenge that we face tomorrow?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think you can.
Is that what you're saying? You've done?
Well, it's possible. I mean, my reasoning for it was actually more to do with rotating based on not getting injuries and the Christmas period coming up being as busy as it is, and the fact that we've got, I think, a game Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday, Tuesday, Sunday, Saturday. Yeah, that's how it's going to be for Christmas.
So I think I'm very worried about injuries more so than anything else. And I think you can say, oh, well, we've got a little bit of time in between now and the next game, but you're looking at getting as much rest as you can for the long run, And I think that the team I've put out is strong enough. I just obviously always have worries that there's certain positions where we can't really afford to lose players more so than other positions, maybe.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you are consistent. And I remember doing preview shows where you have rotated heavily for these types of games because injuries are consistently a worry. But what we have got, Leo, at the moment is our injuries are better. We've seen Gabriel Jesus and Martin Odegaard return for the Brentford team. Ben White, who was a doubt, was in training today, although he was working, I think, separately for a portion of the session. And then Arteta was asked about Ben White, and he said he's trained the day before the Brentford game and he was feeling good. And I think he'll be available. That's very good news for us. So, that's obviously a benefit to having him back. But do you get equally as concerned, like Alex does, about these Champions League games being a bit of a strain on the injury worries?
Yes, very concerned indeed. Very happy it's not Europa League games anymore. But yes, I am worried. Hence my lineup. Then go with some of the players that were injured not so long ago. So yeah, it's a bit of a mix. You want to win now, but you also don't really want to push the players too hard. And the fixtures. They're coming very, very fast, very condensed. It's going to be very hard to manage the squad, but let's hope we do it well.
Yeah, good word. Condensed is what they are. They are going to be very, very hectic over the next few weeks, and obviously past Christmas as well, because it doesn't slow down. You've got cup games, of course. Arsenal not being in the League Cup will give us some respite, but obviously the FA Cup will be getting underway. We've got a game the 23rd, then the 28th, then New Year's Eve, Fulham, and then there's a bit of a break because then we have the what they call the winter break that's been brought back after last year's hiatus because we had the World Cup, of course, which was quite an extended break. But this year we do have that winter break of 1 week off. It's not a week off in terms of Premier League action. What it means is that they're alternating Premier League fixtures by a week. So the week that Arsenal play, there will be 10 teams that don't play that week, and obviously the other 10 teams will play in the same week as Arsenal, so they're splitting it across. So even though there's not a break in the Premier League, there is a break for at least 10 teams on one of those weeks across the two. Not that I've made that exceptionally more complicated in word form than it probably could have been. But yes, the Champions League will, of course, resume. I think it's February, March time for the knockouts. But Mike, we've already touched upon the importance of that. But Lawns are a team that have caused us problems already during this there you go, I've said it, Europa League group stage, Champions League group stage. They've already caused us problems, and I think that players that like El Yawahi, of course, who scored, Thomason looked very good when we were in France as well. they have, motivations to beat us, because they'll only be a point behind us if indeed they do manage to get the double over us in this group. So have you got concerns about the challenge we face, or are you relatively confident still?
I think we underestimated them at our peril. They proved I know they had home advantage and a very strong support 12 man behind them. But nevertheless, they have quality which can hurt. If we're not on our game, then we could get punished. But I think that our defensive capabilities, which have excelled this year, will probably be sufficient to limit them to minimal opportunities. And it's just a case then of whether one of the guys up front can put the ball in the net. So I'm although concerned, I'm still quite optimistic in terms of a positive outcome.
Yeah, looking back at their recent fixtures, they've been on a pretty decent run of form, to be fair, besides their defeat against PSV in the last round, which they lost 1-0. Martin Guilavogui as well got sent off in that, so he'll be unavailable for this game through suspension. But they beat Clermont Foot 3-0 in their last Liga game. They beat Marseille in the game before that 1-0. They drew 0-0 with Lorient in the game before that. They beat Nantes, Marquinhos' Nantes, 4-0 before a draw with PSV in the third round of fixtures. A 0-0 draw of Le Havre, a 1-1 draw of Lille, and then that obviously was the game that followed our defeat against them in France. I think you touched on a big point there, Mike, about the atmosphere in that game really carrying through. I've never personally been in a stadium that was as loud as that, besides perhaps St James's Park. It was an incredible atmosphere and certainly carried them through after they went 1-0 down through that Gabriel Jesus goal. But Alex, without that same level of noise and momentum, and with the Emirates being, a very strong place, especially in the Champions League for us so far this season, 2 very good results against PSV and Sevilla, I guess we have reason to be fairly confident on our home turf as well.
I think we do. I think from our point of view, it's going to be less intimidating than going there. And I think there's something to be said for when we're trying to play our style of football. You don't really want to be intimidated by the fans as well as the opposition, but I think we're in a position where we should win this game. I don't want to tempt fate, but I think we should win this game. I think we've got the players to do it. It's just a matter of what their game plan's going to be. Whether they're going to sit back or they're going to get in our face. I think I've only watched them a couple of times just because sometimes their games are on TV when I want to watch, and they do tend to be in your face even in away games. So I maybe would expect them to come and try and press us a little bit and box us in, and then it's a matter of if we can break through that. But
yeah, they're quite a malleable side. You're right in pointing out they've got the capacity to attack, and they've shown that in a fair few of the games. A 4-0 win over Nantes, a 3-0 win there against Clermont Foot as well more recently. But when we played them, they played an incredibly deep block and countered us really effectively. And so we've got to be on the lookout for that approach as well. But it is because they've got so much variation in their tactics of what they might choose to do that it does make them a challenge to come up against. Now, there is obviously a lot of narratives regarding individual players off the back of the game against Brentford. Leo, Kai Havertz, of course, stole the headlines with his contribution in that game, and certainly a contribution that was needed for both him and the club, which helped them to go top of the table, of course. Is he somebody now that you think needs a game like this to help build momentum, or would you still go with a starting lineup like Arteta did against Brentford that doesn't include him?
It's difficult. Well, obviously, he can still impact the game if he's not in the starting lineup like he did against Brentford. I would start him personally. I think he needs that run of games. He needs the cohesion to build up further. And I think with the goal last week or this week, he can build up on that. I think it's going to help him a lot. Finally, scoring from open play, I think that's going to be like stone out from his chest for sure. And with the support around the group in the team, I'm sure this time in the game he can, if he starts now, it's going to be more with the momentum than he did before. He's not, when you don't really perform very well, you are afraid that you're going to mess something up. But if you do something good, then there's a higher chance of you doing something good again. simply because you have the momentum.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that in football, momentum is really really key, and I think that a player like Havertz has needed that boost of confidence. It was just great to see him celebrate properly. There was a compilation that went around. I don't know if people saw it, of like him celebrating other Arsenal goals, where he kind of just gives it a very mild fist bump and then kind of walks to the other players, and like that's fine. Like people have their own mannerisms and stuff, but there is also something I wanted to see a little bit more enthusiasm. I think I remember. I think it was maybe Justice when we did our phone-in show a few weeks ago, where he jumped on and said he just wants to see more, from Havertz. And I think that celebration and that moment will certainly be a big, big boost to him. So momentum is going to be key. I mean, let's not keep listeners in suspense any longer and go to those lineups. Mike, we start with yours. Talk us through your selections and your reasons why, please, mate.
Obviously, I put Ramsdale on historical grounds, since every time I come on, he's in there. But he won't let us down. He deserves it. And Ray gifted Lawns a go last time we played them. So I don't think he'll play for a moment, but I'd like to see it. So that's the start point. At the back, I put White, Saliba, Gabriel, and Kivior. But you can interchange White with Tommy depending on how White's faring, I guess. Middle of the park, I got Jorginho, Rice, and Odegaard. But again, I was flipping between Odegaard and Havertz. Again, not knowing how Odegaard came through the weekend. But I think he might start Odegaard because he needs a boost in confidence as well. And this isn't a bad game for him. I think Lons might create some space for him to do some damage, particularly if White and Saka are both playing as well, because those three work well together. And then Trossard, Jesus, and Saka up front. I think Jesus needs another 60 minutes. And Martinelli, Trossard again. You can flip either side, which is a good place to be. I mean, whatever changes you look at, it's not a bad place to be. We've got some guys back, and I'll be happy if any of those permutations were good to go, to be honest. And Odegaard, I think he needs a good game. And I think this could be the game. This could be the game to do it. So that's why he's my star dude.
Fingers crossed. Alex.
Yeah, so obviously I've made a reasonable number of changes.
A reasonable number.
Yeah, reasonable number. I think I've got Zinchenko, create the box midfield, give a lot of control, which I'd imagine, in a home game is what we want. Otherwise, away, I might have gone for Tomiyasu, which I often do in my head anyway, maybe not on the show. But then I've got Kivior in, which is another one. Just give Gabriel a rest. I think Kivior's a very decent replacement for him. I think he plays well. I don't mind playing him at centre back. I know some people prefer him maybe in that left sided, but I think that's where he's going to end up anyway if he plays Zinchenko anyway. I think that's where he ends up playing. Then I've already discussed Jorginho, Rice. I think Odegaard needs a game. I think Saka also is one who, I mean, I'm not saying he's been bad by any means, but I think that I was reading something about their Saka and Martinelli. They're just being doubled up on every game, and I think that can't be.
That's what Saka said. We spoke to him after the Brentford game, and he said that this season the difference is that he and Martinelli are being doubled up on a lot more. Yeah,
and I think it can't be coincidence that that's potentially, to me anyway, that's maybe why at times he does have maybe not as bright a game as people might perceive him to have as of last season. But I think, when you've got at least two up against you, it's difficult, when everyone's expecting him to do one thing, which is why he's got to adapt his game somewhat. But I think against maybe, with respect to Lons, slightly lesser opposition than maybe we faced week in, week out in the Premier League, maybe he'll have a bit more joy. People will probably find it slightly comedic that I put Nketiah in the team because I'm of such the opinion that I think maybe we should move on from him. But I also don't know if Jesus is ready to start yet or not. Maybe he is.
He started against Brentford, didn't he? But he came off.
Yeah, but I don't know. I personally didn't really want him to start against Brentford. I'm just nervy of the style of injuries that he keeps getting are ones which tend to come back. And then Nelson, I really like Nelson when he plays. I think he's very direct. I think in Champions League games, in games such as what we've got at the moment, where we've got a slightly lesser points total to aim for, I think he can add a lot. I do like him coming off the bench, but I think if we're going to start him, I'd rather start him in these Champions League games than I would in the Premier League. And I love Martinelli. I could always start Martinelli there, but yeah, I think Martinelli makes a hell of an impact from the bench. So
he does. He did against Manchester City. His only goal, I think, in the Premier League has come from the bench. So yeah, it's certainly worth pointing out. Leo, talk us through your first 11 on the show, mate.
I've gone with Raya. Would love to see Ramsdale to start, but I don't think that's something we can expect very
It's
soon.
interesting you say that. You say you'd love to see Ramsdale start. Why is that? Why is it you'd love to see him start? I know that Mike waxes lyrical on about it, but I'm curious what you think.
I like them both equally, probably. As a person, obviously, I like Ramsdale more because I don't know, I've been watching him for the past 2 years. But I think this whole situation with 2 starting goalkeepers is not really working out like we thought it would. And maybe it's time for Ramsdale to get a little bit more game time. And after he had a bit of a howler on the weekend, I think it's a good time to kind of redeem himself, or just to prove to himself that he's not as bad as he might think he is. Because, well, for keepers, it's a lot depends on their confidence, and you cannot build confidence unless you play.
Continue, yeah, go through your teammate. No, it makes sense.
Yeah, so I've gone with Raya because I think that's what's going to happen. I've gone with White, and half an hour later I've seen that he didn't train, but if you say he did...
He's trained off with... I think he has completed some of the training. Arteta said he should be okay, so don't worry about that.
Yeah, either way, I would be equally as happy with White and Tomiyasu. I think they're both very good at the moment. Saliba and Kivio as the centre-back. Interesting how all of us went with Kivio. I think that's good. Credit to him for that. Gone with Zinchenko because he's the best player in the league right now, obviously. Went with Rice as a best player at the moment, probably. Went with Odegaard and Havertz in those positions, simply because I would like to see if that can work out. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm interested in it. Odegaard needs some game time, and Havertz is going to be the best player today, obviously.
Hope so.
Yeah, Saka and Martinelli start for me simply because they are very good. And Nketiah, I went with Nketiah because Gabriel Jesus is very good, obviously, as everybody. But yeah, for the safety and security measures, I haven't gone with him because he's just come back from the injury, played 100,000 minutes against Argentina, played against Brentford, and I think it would be too much for him. We could go with Trossard, but Nketiah hasn't played in a while, so maybe this could be his chance.
Fair enough. No, I respect everybody's choice in this. I've gone, I think, probably the strongest out of all of us. Raya in goal. I've then got White and Tomiyasu playing fullback. I just thought that Lens really did threaten in those wide areas when we played them last time. You think about where their goals came from, the cross to Wahi, the long ball over the top as well. I think that got to Thomason in the end that led to the equaliser as well. I just think that perhaps that having White and Tomiyasu give us a bit of security in those wide areas just to build as a foundation. But if it was Zinny, there'd be absolutely no issues with seeing that. Declan Rice held the number 6 position expertly against Brentford, and you can just nearly guarantee him to do that every single time. Odegaard and Havertz in the attacking midfield roles, and then Saka, Trossard, Jesus. Those are the 3 that started the game against PSV, if you remember, in our opening game of the Champions League group stage at home, and they had an absolute whale of a time, those 3 playing together at home in the Champions League. So I'd like to see a repeat of it. Martinelli, I feel if you're going to drop anyone, I think he was probably the worst performer of the 3 that started against Brentford. Trossard just seems to be really integral at the moment to what we want to do and what he's providing, and had a really important role to play when he moved to that left-hand side at the end of the game against Brentford. So yeah, I've stuck with Trossard, Jesus and Saka, and gone very strong as well. Odegaard as my star man as well, just because I quite like, as well as Mike did, to see him have a really top game and get back into full flow and form ahead of what is going to be a really important run of fixtures for us coming up in the league. We will finish off the show, as always, with predictions. So chat books, get your predictions, scoreline and scorers into the chat. But Mike, we will start with you.
3-1. I think that Jesus and Odegaard, and then Havertz will come on at 60 minutes and score one as well, just to get the song going again.
Lovely stuff. Alex?
I'm going to go 2-0 Arsenal, and I'm going to go with Saka to get both, because he's my star man, and I've done it before where I've not picked my star man to score.
Another start for Nketiah, another blank there from Alex, not backing him to score. I see how it goes. Leo?
2-0, Kai with both goals. Lovely, convincing performance.
That would be very enjoyable to see Havertz score a couple of goals. That would be great. Rancid's going for a 2-1 Arsenal and Nketiah Saka. Mahomes going for a 17-0 revenge game. That would be a hell of a performance. Thomas going for a 2-0 Jesus and Saka. Patrick Colson going for a 3-2 to the Arsenal. Bradley's going for a 2-0 Saka and Rice. Boston's going for a 3-1 to the Arsenal. And Mecca's going for a 2-0 Arsenal, Saka and Trossard to get the goals as well. So Paul's going for a 3-1 Arsenal. There's lots of positivity, overwhelming positivity, it seems. Mossad as well going for a 2-0 Jesus and Odegaard to get a result. We'll come through some more of those predictions as we round off the show. But thank you to my fantastic panel of guests. As always, please do show them plenty of love in the chat box and the comment section down below. Mike, thank you for your time, especially with it being so early in the morning. Tell people they can find you.
You can find me in the Discord channel, and look forward to seeing you there.
Absolutely. Alex, thank you for your time.
The Emirates, if they'll let me in.
Yes, of course, if you can finally get a ticket. Speaking of which, Alex, if you could also get out of a ticket as well. But thank you for joining me.
I mean, I've done short notice, as always. No, you can always, almost always find me on the Discord server, though I have a dissertation to write at the moment, so probably not quite as much as usual.
Best of luck with that.
Yeah, good luck, mate.
Definitely the least enjoyable part of my entire uni experience was that. Not that I'm trying to discourage you from having a great time doing yours, but it was not good. It didn't come out of a good score either. I could actually give you a little bit of an insight to my dissertation because I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do it on. I ended up having to spend an entire day with my lecturer in a very cold field collecting water samples from separate rivers. That was my dissertation. So yeah, it wasn't enjoyable.
I'm doing mine on Premier League academies and how we implement performance analysis.
That sounds a lot better. Yeah,
it's more of interest to me than anything else. And for my performance analysis unit, I'm currently doing a recruitment profile on Declan Rice, so that is also very fun.
Oh.
I just watch loads of Arsenal games.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, that sounds a lot more enjoyable to research than the pile of rubbish that I ended up doing. So yeah, nice one. Enjoy it. And lastly, Leo, fantastic debut, my friend. You absolutely smashed it. No nerves shown at all. Thank you for coming on. Tell people where they can find you if you'd like.
They can find me in Hungary and Discord channel. Yeah.
Indeed. It's maybe a bit of a needle in a haystack, just going to Hungary to try and find Leo. But
well, it's easier than getting tickets for Emirates too.
So. Indeed. Thank you, everybody in the chat box. Really appreciate your time. As always, do drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. You can get tickets to our live event as well with the link down in the description. I believe Alex might be going.
I'm hoping to go. Yeah, no, I haven't bought a ticket yet.
I've put you under pressure there.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping to go. Yeah, I need to check some dates. But
indeed.
Yeah, get. Oh, well, don't get on it until I've bought one. But afterwards,
yeah, I love that. You just realised that. Oh no, we're promoting something. There is a limited capacity, and as I said, it started off selling really well. So thank you, everyone that's already bought a ticket, and those that are still planning and waiting to sort out their their schedules to see whether they can. But it's going to be a great evening, I'm sure. Thank you to everybody that's already, as I say, got hold of one. We will see you tomorrow morning, of course, at 8 a.m. And then I'll be at the Emirates tomorrow for the game against Lens, and we'll have a breakdown of that game on Thursday morning. So make sure you tune in for that. There's lots of Champions League football, of course, on tonight as well, which will react to some of that too in tomorrow morning's show as well. Have a fantastic evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you happen to be in the world. And of course, stay safe and well. And please, of course, do, as always, up the Arsenal.